Sai, what a pleasure is to have you here on the podcast Experts Path. What you guys are doing, it's hard to not notice. So I wanted to invite you personally to talk a little bit about what you guys are doing there at Hyperbound, and really the problems and challenges you're trying to solve. You're backed by some pretty serious players, and as we were talking off camera, what you guys are doing there, it's very interesting, it's great, and I think it's revolutionary. So before we get into that, I understand you guys are pioneers in the space, in the sales coaching space. But before getting into that, tell us a little bit about what Hyperbound is, and what is the challenge you guys are trying to solve.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, Damien, thank you so much for having me. Super excited to be here, and I've been looking forward to this one. So a little bit about Hyperbound. Hyperbound, what we're building is essentially it's an AI sales coach for large enterprise sales org. So, imagine you're a company, you have 2,000 salespeople, and you are trying to launch 30 new products this year. How do you train and coach 2,000 salespeople as quickly and as efficiently as possible? And also verify that what they trained on is actually being applied on the field, right? That's exactly where our product comes in. We have the ability to scale sales coaching across hundreds, if not thousands of people, especially when there's a big change management initiative going on at the company.
Very nice. I was hearing and reading a little bit about you guys, and I understand you started off as a email automation.
Yes.
So question: how did you get from email automation to sales AI enabled sales coaching?
I knew this was coming. I knew it was coming. So, valid question. So, our journey's interesting, Damon, because we started Hyperbound in technically the company was started in June 2023. Right. And
Yeah.
back then, my co-founder and I, we're both high school friends. We always knew we wanted to build something, and we got together and we decided, hey, post college, let's start this company. And we went through Y Combinator, if you're familiar with that, and
Yeah.
we had nearly 17 different ideas in the early days. We were building all kinds of different things. We were talking to tons of people. In fact, we did over 2,000 user interviews in the early days before we landed on our first idea that we actually started, putting into production. And that idea, after 17 of them, turned out to be this email automation idea. And the whole, premise behind it was that we were reaching out to so many people for months, just trying to learn about different ideas, understand people's pain points, and just do a bunch of customer discovery. And through that process, we were like, man, sending emails sucks. And so we went and built an email automation product that would allow us to use AI to write these emails at scale. And we started using that for all our outreach. And lo and behold, people were asking us for hey, can I use this? Can I use this? And that became our product. And so, we grew that product from 0 to 250K in ARR for nearly 3 months. And, we were at a conference in New York, and one of the sales leaders at that conference, we were at a roundtable, and he turns to my co-founder and he says, so let me get this straight. You guys are engineers, and you've been selling this email automation product for 3 months, and you already have 10 customers, and you're already at 250K in ARR. Like, how is that possible? Like, how'd you learn how to sell? Because you're engineers. And, I didn't know how to react because I didn't think that was a big deal. I mean, I didn't really know what to say. All I told him was, well, we practice on this bot sometimes. We practice like our objections and our talk tracks on this AI bot that we built, but it's not a big deal. And he was like, what do you mean an AI bot? And I showed him what we had built. It was basically this bot that my co-founder and I built where it would pretend to be the customer, and we'd practice our objections and our talk tracks with it. And that's what allowed us to practice before every sales call back then. And that's how we taught ourselves how to do sales. And next thing you know, he was just mind blown by what we had built. And we decided to scrap everything and just pivot into this new product.
So you were at 250K in ARR. You
Yeah.
have this conversation with the with this sales executive,
Yes.
and you suddenly say, okay, let's throw everything in the bin and let's rebuild from scratch. That's not common. Probably people will say, hey, I got to this point, let's keep building this way.
Right.
So what gave you the confidence to say, let's move entirely through
Sure.
this?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it comes down to just thinking a layer deeper about what we were doing, right? When you think about it, at the time, right, this email automation product, we were still selling to sales teams, and the question that we kept on asking everyone was, if you don't trust your own reps to write their emails, like the fact that you trust a 2-person AI startup to write your emails says a lot about the level of trust you have in your reps, right? If you're that worried about emails, what happens when these reps jump on the phone, right? How do you know that they're going to be able to pitch and how they're going to be able to objection handle on the phone? And everyone we asked that to had no answer to that. They're like, well, you have a point. We just hope they do it. Cross your fingers, And that's how we knew there was a gap there, right? But we never really thought much of it until this conversation with the CRO. That's when we kind of connected the dots and we're like, interesting, like people are paying this much money to write emails, right? But no email matters if your rep can't jump on the phone and actually have a conversation with that prospect at the end of the day. And that's where we realized the bigger value is. And so we decided, maybe this is the correct path to go. And we pivoted everything and launched this product, and it just went viral, right, as soon as we launched. And it's been history since. It's been about a year and 10 months, and we're one of the fastest growing companies in San Francisco now.
That's crazy. So you went through YC before actually finding deciding, hey, we're going to
Absolutely.
go this route. Okay.
Absolutely. It's a
Okay.
rite of passage, Damien. Everyone that goes through YC, I think 90% of people will tell you it's never the first idea. It takes a lot of iteration.
What is it that you learn in YC that people can see from the outside that you only understand once you are there? If you have to
Yeah.
capture probably one or two ideas or things that you learn personally, what would those
Yeah.
be?
Yeah, it's a fantastic question. I get asked this all the time. A lot of people have this view of YC being like college. You come in, you go to your classes, you have like a final deliverable, you get a grade. It's not like that at all, right? It's actually very open-ended, right? You come in, and basically YC is connecting you with a community of people who are very similar to you, and you're just trying to absorb as much as possible. You're trying to talk with other people, learn from each other, and one of the things that people don't realize is, it's all on you at the end of the day, right? Like just because YC gave you $500,000 and it's in your bank, it means nothing if you actually can't execute on that or do something with it. And so, we learned that pretty quickly early on. Like we came in, we had all these ideas, and no one was going to tell us the right answer. YC doesn't know what the right answer is. If they knew the right answer to every question, then they would probably, be at a different level right now. And so it's like what they're helping you do really is just connect you with the right community, give you a brand, and put you in a position where you can go figure out what's real, what's not. So the work is still on you, and a lot of people always get surprised by that because they're like, "Oh, you got into YC, you're set for life." Well, that's far from true.
Far from true. And so take me back to that moment when you had this conversation with this chief revenue officer.
Yeah,
You decided to go all in with what today we know as Hyperbound.
sure.
And that, just let me clarify, that was what today's Hyperbound was, a kind of side tool that you used to practice your own sales calls.
Right, right. And, we didn't really think much of it, right? We'd been using that tool for nearly 6 months, because, in the early days, you don't get too many at-bats, right? You're working super hard just to set one meeting. And once you have that meeting, you want to make sure you don't screw it up. And so naturally, we did what technical founders do. We just went and built something to help ourselves, get more comfortable, practice the talk tracks, get the marbles out of our mouth. And we without even realizing it, we were basically sharpening our own skills each and every call. And yeah, didn't even realize that until the CRO brought it up.
Yeah. There's a phrase that I heard a while ago. You probably heard it too, and I have no idea who said that,
Yeah,
but says the more you sweat in practice, the less you bleed in battle.
I love it. I
Uh,
love it.
have you
Yeah.
heard of that one?
No,
Yeah.
I
The
have
more you
not,
sweat
but
in
that
practice,
makes a lot of sense.
the less you bleed in battle. And actually, I tried your demo,
Awesome.
and I went there. You have all these different personas, customer success, VP of HR, and I actually tried it, and
I
it's
love it.
great. And the guy was very rude.
The bots are extremely rude. People
They are
tell us they're
very
the
rude.
rudest bots on the planet. So, yeah.
They are. But again, the more you sweat in practice, the less you bleed in battle. I actually booked the call with
Amazing.
the VP
Congratulations.
VP of
That's
HR or
that's
something.
pretty hard to do. I think the book rate on them is like 15%. So that
Fifteen
means
percent.
15%. So that's how many 15% of people that try the bot actually manage to book a meeting. So
Really?
that's
Okay.
pretty
I feel
amazing.
good about myself now. All right.
Yeah, that's not easy.
That's great. So when you go and you sell you
Mhm.
started selling this, you pivoted to this. How did you guys get your first customer? Where did it come from?
Yeah, yeah, great question. So, in the early days, this was January of 2024, right? This is when we launched the product. It was January 22nd to be exact. And I did not expect this, Damien, but when we launched it, it just went viral. Like TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn. In fact, there was a moment where, it was the middle of the night. It was like 3 a.m. and my phone just kept on buzzing and buzzing. And and loud enough that, it woke me up. And I wake up and I'm seeing all these notifications pop in. And suddenly, I get this notification that our website is down. And I was like, shit, what's going on? I go onto LinkedIn and realize that a ton of influencers started posting about us just organically on LinkedIn. And
Wow.
it had gone viral. And it's not just LinkedIn, but, I wake up in the morning and my brother sends me a TikTok and he's like, is this you guys? And it was on TikTok and Instagram. And, it was one of those experiences where, like, it just kind of overnight, you wake up and it's a completely different world out there. And once we got that traction, like within the first 2 weeks, we got our first customer and they started paying us
Goodness.
20K. That was the initial contract size, and that was a deal cycle that was literally like 2 weeks. So, and we were booked
Nice.
solid for nearly 6 months. So our entire calendar was booked for 6 months, and we got our first customer within the first 2 weeks of launching.
And what would you say makes these people decide?
Yeah,
They might ask you a couple of questions,
yeah,
and if you tick box 1, 2, and 3, they're ready to go.
sure.
What would those boxes be?
Yeah, well, obviously it's changed over time, but
Yeah.
back then, the main lever was there was just nothing like this, right? Imagine it's like a whole different capability unlocked, right? You're playing a video game, let's say, and you suddenly have this brand new like power pack, and yeah, it changes the entire way you play the game. That's exactly what people felt when they saw our product. It's like, dang, like this is a huge unlock. Like before, I had no time to role play or practice or coach my reps one on one because it was
Yeah.
impossible. I have like hundreds of reps. I can't do that manually. But with this, it feels like a cheat code, right?
Yeah.
And these days, there's people are looking at all kinds of things. There's a lot more competitors in the market, right? People have different requirements. They, especially at the enterprise level where we're at, they're looking for
Yeah.
integrations and having a seamless workflow for their reps. But yeah, at the end of the day, the three things I would say is like realism. How real is this role play? Because if the role play is
Yeah.
not real, nobody wants to use it, right? So that was the first thing that we cracked. It's hyper real,
Yeah.
and you
I can
probably
tell it's
noticed
pretty
that,
real from the
right?
demo. Yeah.
Right, and that was one of the first things we cracked that got people really excited. And the second thing is like how easy is it to build these bots? Because the there were tools in the past that claimed to do something similar, but building one of these agents, it was extremely difficult. It used to take like days to build one. And our product, you could go in and build it within 10 minutes. So that was a huge unlock as well. And then the last piece is just, how do you get reps to continuously practice over time? Right?
Yeah.
Like, because most people will go in, they'll practice for like a month and then they'll give up. Right. And one of the things we did there was really unlocking gamification in the platform because salespeople are competitive. Right. You put on a leaderboard and you say, hey, you're going up against your peers. They will never back down, And so those were basically the three main things that we unlocked, especially in the early days that got us a lot of traction.
Sai, what are the typical objections that these companies tend to have when they're evaluating uh, working together?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a variety of different things, right? People will say, we are already coaching our reps, or that's our manager's job. That's what we hired him for. There are folks that will say, we already have a call recorder. We're recording all our calls, and our managers are reviewing them. Like, we don't really need something like this. Or there's others that will say, oh, like role playing is a waste of time. It's I don't want my reps practicing. I want them delivering. I want them executing in the field. And that's very unfortunate, but it happens all the time, right? In fact, there's a funny story recently where, I was talking to the CRO and their SVP of global sales had run a pilot with us and, he was fully bought in. He wanted the product. Then we go to a CRO, we present the business case. And the first thing he said was, if we're trying to get our reps to be more confident, why don't we just put a shot of whiskey on everyone's desk? That will do the trick, right? And that's how, that's when we realize like there are people out there that don't see the value of practice, right? And, we don't sell to those types of companies. That's what we've decided early on.
They're not the target. They're not the target. Yeah, very hard to convince. I can imagine it's super hard to convince them. Actually, you don't convince anyone of anything.
Right. Right. I mean, that's with any coaching product, honestly, right? Like there are people that just they feel like coaching is it's like long tail value. Like, my reps will learn, just through trial by fire. They don't need to practice necessarily.
Yeah. And I'm thinking about what you were telling me before, and is that you guys are one of the highest, fastest growing companies in San Francisco right now.
Yeah.
What does it take besides having a great product and product market fit?
Sure.
What about the team the team side of things?
Yeah.
What are the dynamics?
Sure.
How is it like? Tell me, how is it like to work at Hyperbound?
Yeah. Man, that's a great question. I'm glad you brought that up because it's a huge priority for us. I think the team is what makes or breaks every company. And a lot of people are quick to overlook that because especially when you're growing so fast, you just want to hire people as they come. And sometimes you're desperate because things are moving so quickly. Like you need someone right now. And you make compromises. And I think one of the things that we've been very careful about since day one is just having a really high bar for who we hire and not getting into that, desperation mode, right? Where yes, we have a ton of things to do, but that doesn't mean we're going to make a bad hire as a result of that, right? And we also have a very strong in-person culture. So, everyone comes in 5 days a week. We had a couple early remote hires just because they were close friends from our own network that we knew we could trust. But, at this point, the entire team is in person here in San Francisco, and we intend to continue hiring in person only for the foreseeable future. And, it has a big impact, right? The hallway conversations, if you will, that's where most of the creativity happens, right? You're just walking past each other and discussing things, coming up with ideas, and the team camaraderie over the lunches. Those things really matter and make a difference more than people realize.
Yeah, I can imagine. And when you say when you think about the team and the type of person that kind of matches your culture, if you have to probably name one, two, three things that you look for in a team member.
Sure.
Anything that comes to mind?
Yeah, that's a great question. Um, you know, I think the number one thing for me is someone that comes in is highly transparent, low ego, right? Is willing to, um, you know, work their ass off and doesn't feel like working at Hyperbound is work. They're here because they're on a mission and it feels personal to them, right? I say this all the time. Everyone at Hyperbound has a chip on their shoulder in some way or another, right? Whether it's like they just switch careers, late into their life, and they're trying to prove that this is the path for them, or maybe someone's coming in and this is their first job out of college, and they're trying to make a mark for themselves, right? Or someone was a former founder coming in, and their startup failed, and this feels like their moment to kind of get back and build something great. And so, yeah, everyone has a chip on their shoulder, and those are the types of people I honestly look for, right? I want someone to come here not to please me or please Atul or please the board. I want them to be here to please themselves. And
Yeah.
that's when you get the best people.
Yeah. Something I learned is that you recruit the best. I have something in relation to the, when you talk about A players. And A
Right,
players, I believe that everybody has an A player in them.
right,
The difficult part is creating the right environment and give it the right mission. At the
right,
end of the day, we can all be stars and do great things, but it's
yeah,
about the environment, it's about the mission, and it's about how you enable that person to accomplish
right,
what they need
right,
to accomplish
right.
at the end of the day, right?
That's the hard
Uh,
part.
yeah, and it is very hard. And
Yeah.
recruitment, it's a tough job. It's a tough job.
It's hard because, especially when you're interviewing folks, right? Most people usually are not very candid on those interviews, right? They're usually putting up a front, or they're, making things seem more
Yeah.
exciting than they are. And it's like really hard to gauge what's real and what's not. And I think that's where good interviewers know how to bring the best out of people, but also the worst out of people, and both are important.
Yeah, and I think especially in the early days when I'm pretty sure you get very, very involved in recruitment
Oh
for
yeah,
every. How many guys are you at the company right
we're
now?
currently 17 and
So
growing.
you're 17, so you get
Yeah,
heavily involved. But
right.
there's something about that nuance of the co-founders. It's first say, do I like this person? Do
Oh,
I,
absolutely. I mean, that's
do I
I
enjoy
hate to
spending?
say it, but that's
Yeah,
where it all starts. It literally starts off with just a gut check. My
yeah,
co-founder and I, we both talk to them, and we say like, hey, does this person feel like they belong here? And it's not because uh, we're being egotistical and we know who's the best fit. It's just at the end of the day, like, we want to work with people that we feel tied to, that we can connect with, right? And
exactly.
if we can't connect with them for whatever reason, even if it's not explainable, we just don't feel comfortable moving forward.
Yeah, yeah. People might professionals and might say no, that's not relevant, but it really is. It starts with the
In
gut
the
check.
early days, it
You know
absolutely
that
is.
that
Right.
that that that's it. That's it really.
Yeah.
But one of the most important things, Sai, is, and in my experience and what I heard from senior executives and very successful leaders, is that you gotta sell the vision,
Mm-hmm.
right? And what
Mm-hmm.
you're building. That having a vision so big is something that attracts great players
Yeah.
as well. When you think about what you're building and you think 5 years forward, 10 years
Sure.
forward, what do you guys imagine? What's the impact you like to have?
Yeah, putting me on the spot, Damien.
You can take your time to think about that one, but
Yeah, I mean, it all starts with, who we're selling to, right? At
yeah,
the end of the day, the person that wants our product the most are, their sales leadership, right? people that basically they have a number to hit, and
Yeah.
they have a workforce behind them, and they got to figure out in a matter of like 18 months. By the way, 18 months is the average tenure of a typical CRO, so that's why I say 18 months.
Crazy.
If I'm a CRO that just joins a new company, I have 18 months to get my team from 50 million in ARR to 100 million in ARR, right? How do I do that, right? And if you think about it, these are still people. Like, you can't just come in, put in a process, and expect everyone to adopt it and change overnight, right? It takes, like, you put in a new process, it takes easily 3 to 4 months for people to learn that new process and get up to speed, right? So when you do the math, you essentially have like 5 or 6 chances during your entire tenure to create change, right? So now when I think about, like, when I'm sitting in the seat of a CRO thinking, okay, I have 6 chances at best. That's best case scenario, right? Realistically, it's more like 3 or 4. I have like 3 or 4 chances to make a change. How am I going to do that as quickly as possible and as effectively as possible? And also in a data-driven manner where I know the impact of the changes that I'm making, right? And so that's where our vision is basically headed, right? It's to give these senior leaders the visibility that they need to make these changes efficiently and at scale, while also supporting the reps as well, because it all comes down to that individual rep too, right? How do we make sure that they are supported, that they are closing deals, that they know why deals are stalling, and at the same time give leadership the visibility as if they're like that frontline manager looking into every single deal, but from a bird's eye view.
Yeah. You know what I loved about what you just said? Typically, I would ask a question like that, and you can expect that we want to be the fastest and the biggest company in the world that does it. But everything you just said is how you're serving your customers. It's how you're doing something very specific, serving that person who's leading a sales organization that wants to grow, that has people under that they're leading, and how can that person help their team become the best version of themselves professionally. And I really like that.
Right.
It was not about we want to be this and we want to be that. It's we want to help our customers. We
Yeah, I
want to
mean, at
help
the end of the
these
day,
people do that better.
at the
And
end of the way,
that's
that's what,
phenomenal.
yeah, and at the end of the day, right, that's what keeps my co-founder and I going. It's if we're not solving a real problem and people aren't seeing real value, I don't care what our revenue numbers are. I don't care how big our team is. It kind of loses all the interest. And so yeah, that's where it all starts for me. Always, it's like, hey, who are we solving it? Who are we solving the problem for? How big of a problem is it? Those are the 2 things I care about.
That's phenomenal. Sai, I think we're running out of time now, but
Yeah.
before we go, how can people connect with you?
Yeah, so the easiest way to connect with me is, by just messaging me on LinkedIn. Very active on there. It's Sriharsha Gudaguntla if you want to find me on LinkedIn. You can also visit our website at hyperbound.ai. That's hyperbound.ai. And on there's actually a big green button. Maybe it will change if we update our website, but there should always be a button where you can go try your free demo for yourself and see if you can book a meeting just like Damien did today.
Yeah, great. I can testify of that. It's great tool, and it feels very real, and the body's pretty rude, so be ready.
Awesome.
So, Sai, thanks so much for the time.
Cool. Appreciate it, Damien.